Okay, today we're going to read chapter 29 of Fish in a Tree. I hope you guys have been liking this book so far. It's been kind of interesting, and especially that it's in a school setting and that maybe you guys can make some connections to Allie or to some of the other characters. So I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. All right, chapter 29, and this chapter is actually called Fish in a Tree. All right. Albert, Keisha, and I get off the bus for our class trip to the Noah Webster house. With no written work today, I'm thinking it will be a silver dollar day. Albert starts collecting acorns from the ground, filling his pockets. I'm tempted to ask why, but I'm afraid the answer will take an hour. Oliver picks up acorns and whips them at the trees. Max joins in. Max hits a tree every time. Oliver, not so much. Mr. Daniels walks over and says something to them to make them stop. I pick up an acorn, too, and it reminds me of a little Frenchman with a pointed chin, perfectly shaped head, and a little beret. I name him Pierre and stick him in my pocket. I decided that I'll do a drawing of him later, maybe dancing with a lady at the Eiffel Tower. My grandpa always said he was going to take me to see it. Albert's pockets are bulging by the time we line up to go inside. Shay is rolling her eyes at him and laughing. When Mr. Daniels looks in her direction, she stops like she has an on-off switch. When he looks away, she laughs at Albert again. Don't laugh at him, I say. Fine, she says. I'll laugh at you. I don't care if you laugh at me. Albert just stands there looking a little lost. Albert, I whisper, why won't you tell them to go jump in a lake or at least to leave you alone? Albert, Keisha talks to him in her you better listen to me voice. Hunched over and silent is no way to meet the world. Albert bends over, picking up more acorns. He looks up at us. It isn't logical, he says. It will only let them know it bothers me. So it does bother you, I ask. He stands up straight. Well, no one likes to be insulted, but let's say that my worry about Shay is a drop of water in the ocean compared to my other worries right now. Well, what's your other worry, I ask. These acorns, he says, holding one up. This green coloring on the side looks like moss, but I am concerned that it is actually a fungus. If if this is the case, all of these trees may be in danger. I have collected samples and I will do further research. I lean in and look at the acorn. I like how Albert cares and is able to see things that other people wouldn't, but I wish Albert would care about himself as much as the scientific world. Mr. Daniels puts us into groups. I pray that I end up in his group or with Keisha and Albert. I get part of my wish, and I am in a group with Albert. Mr. Daniels is with a bunch of boys, including Oliver and Max. We get the drill about behaving, things being old, and how we're not supposed to touch them. We break into our groups and head upstairs into a bedroom. So, our guide says, straightening her bonnet, does anyone know where the term sleep tight comes from? Albert raises his hand, and she calls on him with a smile. Albert points to the underside of the bed. Mattresses were held up with rope so they were off the floor and away from bugs. When the mattresses would sag, they'd tighten the ropes, making the bed more comfortable. Hence the saying, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Well, if anyone would know about bed bugs, he would, whispers Shay. Downstairs in the kitchen, the fireplace is big enough to stand in. The lady tells us that girls didn't go to school as much as boys, that they typically stayed home to learn how to take care of the house. My mind bites into that, and I can't stop thinking about it. No more school? Ever? I lean over to Albert. Albert, do you think that time travel is possible? And he whispers back. Albert Einstein had extensive theories on its possibilities, and I certainly wouldn't argue with him. Me either, I say to him. How do you think I would look in one of those dresses and bonnets? He looks a little puzzled. Finally, we go to a colonial schoolroom and join the rest of our class. A lady talks about a visionary, Noah Webster, and he was the first American speller. He created the first American speller and dictionary. Before that, people used to make up spellings. There were no right or wrong ways to spell. Some visionary. This spelling stuff, it's all his fault, since he's the one who got it in his head that we need to all spell the same way. I'm thinking Noah Webster was a scoundrel, and they should put him in jail for all of this. The lady tells us it took him 20 years to write the dictionary, and he also wrote the first school books and grammar books. I think he must have been tipped off his rocker, as my grandpa used to say. Students in colonial times didn't use paper and pencils like you do now. The lady holds up a little chalkboard in a wooden frame. They used slates like these and wrote their answers down to show their teacher. She passes out the slates, which are fun to write on. I draw a picture of Pierre with his beret, and I wish I had some green chalk to add a little smudge of honor for Albert. The woman takes out a pointed white hat. Now, this is something teachers began to use in schools towards the end of Noah Webster's life. It's called a dunce cap. As a punishment for misbehavior, a child would have to wear it and stand in the corner facing the wall. I hear giggling. Shay is showing her slate to a bunch of other kids. There's a head wearing a dunce hat, and Allie is written underneath of it. What's the fuss about? The guide asks as she walks over. Then she turns to them. That isn't very nice. Erase that now, please. I stand, willing the tears that came to my eyes to stop, knowing they will only give everyone more time or more things to make fun of me. Are you all right? The guide asks me. Everyone is quiet now. Everyone is watching me. It's worse than the laughing. So I run. I run out. Out of the room and out of the museum. A woman calls to me, but I keep going. Out the door and around the back. Across the lawn of a beautiful light greenhouse. I find a swing set which reminds me of my grandpa and how we spent hours on them at the park. I tried to think about what he'd say now, and am sad that it's hard for me to remember his voice exactly. My hands slide down the chains, so I sit on the seat, thinking of when I was little, when my world wasn't such a heavy place. I used to love to swing as high as I could, leaning back, reaching for a bright blue sky with my feet, and it made me feel like I could do anything, like I could reach anything. I lean my cheek against the cool chain, feeling like I can't reach anything anymore. Then the tears come. And then, standing in front of me, are our feet. The shoes on them belong to Mr. Daniels. He stands for a while without saying anything until he finally says my name. All I can do is respond to his sniff. Can you tell me what happened in there? I don't know what to say. Such a small question and such a giant answer. Please, just leave me alone. He takes a couple of steps away and stays quiet for a bit. But then he says, my brother and I used to love to write in the sand on the beach when my family would go to Maine. I don't answer him. Then he picks up a stick and writes something in the dirt under the swing next to me. More words. Why can't I ever get away from words? He turns towards me, and I stare at his knees. Allie, he says, holding out the stick, do you want to write something? I shake my head. I think of flying on swings through bright blue skies and away from the words like dumb and freak and loser. He squats down in front of me. I am sorry about whatever it is that upset you. Let me help you. I take a deep breath, and when I let it all out, the words come out with it. Nobody is ever going to be able to help me. Not ever. They all said I should have a dunce cap, and they're right. That's the thing. They're right. Oh my, Allie, you actually believe that, don't you? I can hear that it's shock in his voice. I finally look up. Why wouldn't I? Because you are most certainly not dumb, Allie. You're just saying that. No, I'm not, actually. For once, you are amazing on those bus driver math problems. You're one of the kids who gets the really hard ones correct. I look up into his face with the bright sun behind him and blurt out, but how come I can't read? It's the first time I have ever asked that question out loud. I guess because I'm so desperate for an answer. Oh, Allie, he says, this thing that makes school hard for you, I think you might have something called dyslexia, and it means that although it's hard for you to read, it doesn't mean you're dumb." He laughs a little. "In fact, you, Allie Nickerson, are far from it. Your brain just figures things out differently than other people." I'm different. He's got that right. But no way am I smart like he says. "You don't understand," I tell him. "Yeah, Allie, I think I do." Then he leans down. "And you know what? You're brave, too." I so want to be brave, but I'm not. Coming to school every day, knowing what you're in for, knowing school will be hard and that other kids are going to razz you, and you still come every day and decide that you're going to try and try and try. I stay quiet, just thinking about what he said, hoping he knows what he's talking about. And you know something else? In some ways, you're a lot smarter than other kids. You can also do things they can't. For one, you're an amazing artist. Those drawings of yours, wow, Allie, you've got talent there. What do you think about that?" "I think it's like saying I'm sorry you're going to die, but at least people are going to bring you flowers." He laughs really hard now. "See that? Seriously, Allie. Only smart people say things like that." His voice drops. "It's going to be okay, kiddo. I have never hoped for something so much as this. You and I are going to figure this out together. As a matter of fact, I already spoke to Mrs. Silver and Miss Kessler, the reading consultant at school. I was already planning to call your mom and talk to you tomorrow. We're going to give you some tests." I deflate. Oh, oh no, please, no tests. "Not the test you're used to. You'll see. These are more like puzzles and games than tests, but the results will help us help you. I feel like I can look up for the first time. You are smart, Allie, and you are going to learn to read." A chill runs through my whole body. I don't have any choice but to believe him, because I can't go another day thinking things will be like this forever. I wipe the tears from my face with the back of my hand. He stands up, and we start walking. Mr. Daniels looks up at the bright blue sky and says, "Now, don't be so hard on yourself, okay? You know a wise person once said, 'Everyone is smart in different ways. But if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking it's stupid.'" I think hard about that. Could it be that simple? A mind movie flickers in my brain, and an angry fish at the bottom of a tree banging on the trunk with its fins, and complaining that it can't climb. I think of a turtle making a sandwich, a snake playing the violin, an elephant knitting, penguins playing basketball, an eagle scuba diving. But mostly I hope with every tiny bit of myself, that Mr. Daniels is right about all of this. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 29. I don't know if you guys could feel that, but that was a major chapter. That is a chapter where Allie is finally letting someone help her. So Mr. Daniels talks about trying to help her, and he's gonna see if he can get her some tests. And I really think that in this chapter, it's something that all of us can relate to. So he talks about how students learn in different ways. I don't know about you, but being a teacher, I'm able to see that a little bit. Some of you are really good at math, and some of you love science, and some of you love to write. For me, math and writing were very hard for me in school, but I loved to read and I loved social studies. So that was the way that I would work on learning, is trying to focus on the things I'm good at and then really practice at those things I'm not. So do you think that you learn differently than someone else, or than anybody else, anybody in your class or your siblings? So write a little message about that, about how you think you learn. Some people really like to hear things read to them. Some people like to read it to themselves. Some people would rather watch a movie instead of writing on paper. Some people would like manipulatives, which means things to move around and touch. So everyone learns differently. So you tell me about yourself. How do you think you learn? What helps you learn? Okay, so write some stuff down. Send that to Miss Whitener or myself. Bye.